What's up, everyone, and welcome to a very legendary episode of Swatt Deeds Talk. Finally, with all the cosmos, we have finally decided the Hindu guy is meeting the mythology guy.
Oh, it's happening. It's really happening.
And without further ado, guys, here he is, the man, the myth, the legend, the mythology guy, Andrew. Welcome to the show.
Can't follow up that introduction.
You
Thank you very much for having me. It's so great to be here. It really is. I'm really happy to be here. So thank you.
I can't believe this is actually happening, and like maybe this guy ain't either. Maybe that's why like Murugan's like speaking to us like, "Hey, is it really happening?" Yes, it is, my child. Yes, it
If anyone would know.
is. Okay, before we begin, I just want to say like thank you for like doing this for me. I actually came across your channel during the pandemic while I was actually sick. And I didn't have like it was not a serious situation. I had like mild COVID, and I was stuck at home. I was like exhausted, and it's even like it was pain to eat because like I can it was all pain. But then I came across your Zeus video actually as first.
Zeus! You banged my wife! I did? Huh. Well, how about that?
Literally gobbled your channel because like I was eating as I watched it, and it finally I made some reaction videos. You responded, and finally I'm able to talk to you. This is like one of our YouTuber dreams come true, and I'm so happy.
Oh, that is so great to hear. Thank you. Yeah, a lot of people found the channel through the pandemic. The one good thing that came out of that. I also had COVID for a bit, so team COVID. But I'm really happy that it could do that for you. And really, all of your reaction videos have like made my day. Like I really love seeing those. It's because there's always a very mixed reaction when someone who is spoiler alert, I'm not Indian. When someone who is not Indian covers Indian culture and religion, there's always people who are not happy about that. They think I have intentions that I don't have. So, but it was really wonderful to see like you and most Indian people did really enjoy it. But it was really fun to see someone like go above and beyond and not only like have a good attitude about it, but record a reaction to it and add to it. I felt like you added a lot to it because you made the video as much more educational, and that's good because I really value that because it's sometimes hard to get definitive answers to things, especially culture related and religion related, and especially ones that are still being practiced and one still as widely practiced as Hinduism. Like I do try really like to go online and like find like second sources for the things I've read in books. I'm like, hey, how accurate is this? And it's just people arguing. It's always people arguing.
Rabbit season, duck season, rabbit season, duck season, rabbit season.
I even like wondered like how did you even go about doing your Hindu research? Because it is confusing, and this is coming from a guy who is Hindu and had to study Hinduism in school because we had to. It's not an option. So I studied from first grade to grade 11, and even I go like, what the heck is that? Like I remember watching some of your videos, and I look at the lore and I didn't know that. I need to look this up. And I like calling people to actually understand it. It is that confusing, let me tell you.
Yeah. No, yeah. So it was very validating when you would watch the video and you'd be like, yeah, he got that right. I was like, oh, thank God.
You were right. I've dreamed of this moment for so long.
And yeah, then stuff like that you would add to it that I didn't know before because I'm pretty sure you know more of this than I do. So it was always nice to be like, oh, I didn't know that. That could be something for the future. So it's always wonderful to see. And I did think like, hey, this main purposes of my channel are to be fun and educational. Your video added to that fun and education. So I was like, yeah, let's share this to the audience if people want to know more. And
by the way, you sharing my first video actually brought like the first 1,000 views, and like now it's like blown up to like 20,000 views. And I like it after 3 days, and you responded like, oh, the Mythology Guy responded. He responded. I don't know how to handle the situation. I didn't think he would see it.
Well, congratulations. I'm really happy that you got that many views. I will admit I did like keep up with the video after that, and when I saw it blow up that much, I was like, I feel powerful.
You have the power. And I just want to add on, like, when you said, like, I do want to ask you, like, what was your, like, first Hindu myth that you actually came across?
So, the there's a couple different answers to that, because it's like my introduction to Indian stuff in general was, this is probably an answer not everyone's gonna like, but it was Apu in The Simpsons.
For no reason, here's Apu.
I think that's how it is for a lot of Americans. And obviously I knew not to take that character seriously. I knew he was there for comedic reasons. But when he would mention, every now and then he would mention like Vishnu or Ganesh and show a statue. And a little kid me who loved Greek mythology and Chinese and these other ones was looking at it going, that looks really cool. I've never seen like a god with that many hands, or one that looks so, I think the right word would be like elegant. Hindu deities have this elegance to them that is very like alluring.
Slightly Cthulhian as well.
Yeah, yeah, and I actually really love the many arms thing, because that's not in a lot. Like every culture has like something with a whole lot of arms, but for it to be such a common thing, it really sets it apart and gives it an identity. So I was always curious about it, and then as I got older, when I really started to like work on the card game that I work on in my spare time, I was adding a lot of stuff to it. And I just thought, like, by then I had, like, looked a little more at Hindu characters. Like, I had looked at Agni, the two-headed fire god, and I thought he was amazing. Like, I thought he looked really cool.
Flame
and
boy.
I had looked at Kali, the goddess of destruction and many other things. Like, and I just thought she looked so cool. And I was like, I think these characters would be really cool in my card game, but I don't know enough about them. And I told that to my girlfriend, Wilda, who I'm still with. And one day she just came over and she gave me this book. It's Indian Myths by Jake Jackson.
Ooh.
And it's a very good introduction to Hindu culture. I know some people are offended by the word myths, but for me, myths does not mean fake. It just means supernatural, widely believed. That's all it means to me.
It's weird. Like, I even got flagged for calling it like mythology in my videos as well.
No,
but it's like it's so weird to use the word theology. Even like Christians don't even say that. They even say Christian mythology, because like it's that sort of thing now. But I do get the Indian people getting upset. Oh, they call themselves theology and they call us mythology. I mean, that's the thing they're getting. But like for most normal people, they just say mythology for every sort of mythic story they think of.
It's just a simple, all-inclusive term to call it all mythology. And yeah, some people ask me, well, then should we call Christianity mythology? And I go, yeah, call it that. I don't care. And they go, oh, are you atheist? No, I'm Christian. Call it mythology. I don't care. Here's the thing. I think I'd have to be really fragile to hear someone call my religion mythology and just blow up. And I'd be a total hypocrite. Also, I talk about everyone's culture. I call it mythology. If I'm not going to call mine mythology, then I'm just a jerk. So you asked what was my first like Hindu story, like first actual full story. This book starts with like the creation stories, and then it goes right into Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahma. So I guess you could say I started with Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahma, but the first like real story it has is a summarized version of the Ramayana. The tale of Rama, or Rum, depending on what area you're from. And I actually really liked it. I thought, hey, this is a really great hero's journey. I love a good hero's journey. And then a Hanuman comes in, and I was like, hey, this guy reminds me of Sun Wukong, who is one of my favorite gods ever. And again, now that I've done more research, I think it's very clear that Hanuman came first. So yeah, I'm like, oh, so this guy inspired one of my favorite gods. So I really liked Hanuman. I liked Rama. But I will say, in this book, the Ramayana is very summarized. You don't get a ton of detail, but it did make me want to seek out a bigger version and then read that. So I really got into that, and I was like, this culture has some really entertaining storytelling in it. I'm already into some of the gods, and there was also the story of Dharma Raja, who is also called Yama by some people, the god of death, when he I can't remember the woman's name, but when he came to fetch that woman's husband and he let her walk with him the whole way and they talked and he eventually gives her husband back to her. I really loved that story as well.
Yama is known to be very fair, kind of like even like Hades in Greek myth is like from your videos I learned is also pretty fair. But
Yeah.
he's also in a sense like a very stickler for the rules.
Yeah.
So like there was one time there's a story of Markandeya, which is a very famous story where like there's a child that's like born of Shiva, but like he only has like 16 years to live.
Yeah.
And when he found out that like after 16th birthday he's gonna die, he basically went and hugged the Shivalingam and said, like, I don't want to die. And then when Yama came to actually kill him, Shiva was like, nope, you're not killing him. And then Yama was like, no, I have to do it. And he throws unlike other death gods, he doesn't have a sai or a weapon. He basically uses a rope.
He has a noose thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's something I like about him. It's unique.
So when he threw it, Shiva just like kicked death, and death died. Death itself died for some reason.
Shiva was like, nope, even death will die before I relent. That's such a Shiva thing to do. No, nobody messes with Shiva, not even his own kids.
And here's the thing: Then after that, oh wait, I can't kill Death. Death is needed, and he brought Death to that, and Death's like, yeah, I'm gonna try again. So Shiva like, I can't keep killing him. So okay, he shall remain 16 forever, and he was the first immortal, so he remained 16 forever.
Oh my god. I have not heard this story. I love this story. I got to make a video on this story.
So look up Markandeya. That's all you need to look up. I also wrote a book about it, which is a terrible story, so I cannot recommend that. But like, look up that. It's called Markandeya, the myth of Markandeya. This where like Shiva conquering death for a child. But that's the thing. Like Yama will like even challenge Shiva to like fulfill his duty. And when you said like Ramayana is like, it's very interesting to see because like. I'm born Hindu in a Hindu family, so like that's pretty much all that I knew. So people recite Ramayana and stuff like that just from their mouth, and they give us a summary version of like what happened in the Mahabharata or Ramayana. So you basically know, but like when the first official story that I actually learned was a story of Tirunjana Sambandha. So I am a Saiva who would say like it's a version of Hinduism that mainly focuses on this guy. Like for us, it's like this. He's like grand art. There's like other creation stories we would not accept. It's like it's him. And our whole religion and philosophies are kind of built up on like four sages and poets. They're called like Tirunjana Sambandar, Tirunavukarsar, Sundarar, and Manikavasagar. Really hard names to remember, I know. But like just know that these four guys are like our pillars of our philosophy and all the stories that we think of. And the first guy is what we actually learned in school in first grade. He's basically the guy who only stayed like for a younger change. He's like a child poet. What happened was like his father took him to the pond, and we have a thing called when we bathe, we submerge ourselves in some mantras and then we get out. We don't do that now, but we used to do that.
What?
So and also like even like current like people who do pujas and stuff will do that. So when he submerged himself, the baby thought his dad died, and he started crying. And then Shiva and Parvati like nanny daycare, they immediately popped up and like, oh, we gotta take care of this baby. And they took the baby, and Uma actually fed him her milk, and that's where he drank the divine milk and became this grand poet. And he started singing from a young age.
Oh god, I love these stories.
So our thing's like very specific, and that's like when you hear like Ramayana, Mahabharata story, it's like when you go to school, okay, I'm going to learn wars. No, we're learning this. It's a beautiful story about a poet. I understand I was still in first grade, but I was expecting huge battles and stuff like that, but come on.
Cartoon violence! Cartoon violence!
You're like, I came here for the Kurukshetra war. I didn't come to hear about milk.
Because here's the thing, like, they are so big that like we can actually teach you like word by word everything. If you're like doing like further studies on Hindu culture, like in A levels and also in university, then pretty much you're gonna have to do them because you have to take the tests. But for us, they would only give us like summarized versions or like a specific sections of the story, so they can actually teach you something from that. So and also there are very small amount of Hindu people actually like read even the original Sanskrit version. That's the other thing. There are many different versions. And people will like the certain area of people will stick to this. Okay, this is this is our translation. I know it's different from the other Sanskrit version, but this is our belief, and we're gonna stick to this version. And this is what I teach our kids. That's why, like, even Hindus argue, no, this didn't happen. No, this did happen in this story. That's not the original. No, this is we believe it. This is a constant thing with Hinduism, but that's why, like, I am very confused. Like, how did you like go about doing any of your research? Because like if like the Ramayana book, so there's like main thing, the Balmuni wrote the Sanskrit one, which is the original considered. Our Tamil versions is like Kamba Ramayanam. That's what we learned. But that was like in the 12th century BC, I think. Like, but there's like all the languages of India have their own Ramayanam, and there are some folk Ramayana as well. And I recently learned like the Philippines also have done a play on Ramayana, which is so different from everything else. So
Oh my
like,
God.
how do you like? I can say, okay, this is Tamil. This is what I learned. This is what I'm going to go with. How do you do it?
It's not easy. Well, it's easier when I myself personally accept the fact that, okay, look, you're going to read from several different sources. You're going to have to accept one of them is not the definitive canon one. Like, you're just going to, it's the same in a lot of different mythologies. You're going to have to accept there are multiple versions of this story. Usually, something I'll do is if I see the same version popping up a lot in multiple books or multiple websites or both, I'll be like, all right, that seems like the more accepted one. So maybe it's, more respected to lean towards that. But there's always like I always know that no matter what I do, no matter what I put up, there's going to be someone who says that's not the version I believe in. And so I've just gotten ahead of just like sometimes when I respond to those comments, I'll just be like, I'm sure it isn't. I'd love to hear more about the version you believe in because help. Like, as you know, I started with this book, and lucky for me, Jake Jackson does a really good job. He takes multiple sources into account. He covers a whole lot of things. Like, this book has the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and several other stories in it. I know it's small, but it's summarized. But it did make me like. So after that, I would like go to Barnes and Noble, which is a big bookstore here. I don't know if you have it there, and I would go to the library and I just ask, hey, what do you have on Hinduism or Indian history or culture that I can look at? And they would like take me over to the section. And one thing I do like is like we actually do have more Hindu books than I thought we would, because when I was like trying to learn Polynesian culture, I would be lucky if I found one or two books. But I go over to the Indian section, we've actually got a few. So I was like, okay, great.
I remember one time I was still in school, by the way, like one of our retired principal came to school and he was doing research on Ramayana because like he was writing his own Ramayana and publishing it. And I was like, what? Can you do that? That was my first reaction. Like multiple people, even today, like do Ramayana. And here's the other thing. All of them are in songs. Like if you go to the original, all of them are in songs. And even the guy who translated, like for Tamil, the Kambar is the one who translated it. And even he did it in poetry, in Tamil poetry, which, by the way, most people can't read. Like Tamil is my native language, but like ancient Tamil, again, like with the Shakespeare thing, you go like, I don't get it. And then there'll be other poets who interpreted that and they would read it in plain language. And the people who do that now releasing books, they only release in plain language. But again, they can interpret the song in so many ways. It's up to you, I guess. So it's really hard. But I get that there are some things that are always there. That Hanuman's always a character, is not going to be underplayed. There's some version where Hanuman is like overplayed, and we get to know a lot about him. And there's some version where he's like the avatar of Shiva as well for some reason.
Yeah, and that's another thing I see people disagreeing on. Some people say Hanuman is his own thing, and other people say he's an avatar of Shiva. And it's a little tricky to figure out because like again, like I'm putting these characters in the card game I'm making, and in the Hindu deck we have like an avatar system, And so when I put Hanuman in, I was like, do I make Hanuman an avatar of Shiva or do I not?
And like, I cannot help you in that department because a lot of people will say yes, and I'm like, I don't know. And some people are like,
yeah,
no.
no, that's what I ended up realizing. I spent like hours and hours reading every Hanuman story I could find, and in the end, I was like, what am I doing? Damned if you do, damned if you don't. So here's what we'll do: we'll focus on would it make the game more fun, and in the end, we decided it would. So in the game, he's an avatar of Shiva. That's what we're doing.
I mean, I'm cool with that.
Hi everyone, this is Editing Cap. After this conversation with the Mythology Guy, I got very curious about Hanuman being an avatar of Shiva story, so I decided to do some research. I found that majoritively Saivas do believe Hanuman being an avatar of Shiva, and I am a Sri Lankan Tamil Saivar, which is the version of Hinduism that focuses on Shiva. But I do not remember anyone covering Hanuman as an avatar of Shiva in school or by anyone else around me. However, in my research, I found that the Siva Puranam as the source of this myth. Now, here's where things get confusing. Now, the Tamil Siva Puranam that I used to sing in school on every Friday is written by Manikavasagar. He's one of the 4 poets that make the core of Saiva philosophy and literature. And the Siva Puranam is an opening hymn or a song to the Tiruvasagam, which is the book that Manikavasagar wrote. And that Sivapuranam is like only 95 verses long. The song explores philosophy of life, death, and the cosmos according to the god Lord Shiva. Also, according to the myth, it was Shiva himself who wrote the Sivapuranam, and Manikavasagar was merely a witness to it. But that's a whole other mythology story that we're not going to get into right now. Now, this Sivapuranam that is written by Manikavasagar is different from the Sanskrit Sivapuranam, which is a collection of Lord Shiva myths and legends. And I could not actually find a complete Tamil translated version of this online, but I did get this, but this is not complete, so I can't really look up the Hanuman myth in here. I did find an English version that was translated by J.L. Shastri in the 1950s. And in here, in section 3, chapter 20, it says, in due course, Shiva was born of it in the form of a monkey named Hanuman. He had great strength and exploit. I do want to point out this translation, in my opinion, doesn't look very well written. Like here, it says like once Lord Shiva of wonderful sports saw Vishnu in the form of an enchantress with glittering qualities? What? If you know a complete Tamil translated Sanskrit Sivapuranam, please let me know. In any case, this source does state Hanuman being an avatar of Shiva. I will also like to add, I've seen like 5 or 6 movies and series of the Ramayanam in Tamil. In the earlier ones I've seen, there was no mention of Hanuman being an avatar of Shiva. He was just considered Vayu's kid. But the 2 modern ones I've seen recently really highlight Hanuman being an avatar, or more accurately, an amsam of Lord Shiva. So my theory is that this did fell out of the culture for a bit, but now it has gained some popularity again because like Hindu pop culture really does highlight this nowadays. Also, this English translation is an open field day for a lot of jokes. So more ideas for the Mythology Guy sketches, because there are some wild stuff in here. Sorry for interrupting the chat between me and the Mythology Guy, but I wanted to present this because I wanted to provide more details about this because I didn't do it while we were originally having the chat. And I would like to give you as much interesting information as possible. Now let's get back to the chat.
What myth you from Hindu mythology character from Hindu mythology that you want to see in a Disney movie?
So I think the character that would lend itself the most easily to a Disney movie might be Rama or Ram, because again, it's a standard hero's journey, and you could easily make Hanuman the funny character, and he's the story is him saving his wife Sita from Ravana. And imagine the fun you could have with Ravana in animation, all the heads, all the arms, all the insanity. Hanuman lighting the city on fire with his butt. That's some of the easiest comedy you can possibly create. So I think that would be fun. But really, I'd be excited no matter what Hindu character gets put in Disney. I don't think they'll do it, though, because modern Disney is scared to take any risks, and it would be a very big risk to adapt a Hindu story in the Disney way, where they always take liberties. I
always like to think about like Disney in a sense like so in the era of globalized diversity and stuff where we get like share stories and most of the time do whatever we like anime does it all the time. We complain about it most of the times, but still
Yeah.
they were able to like I always say like why haven't we got a Hindu god story yet? What's wrong with you? Do it.
The closest thing we have to that here is we have this TV show called The Last Airbender, which is based on several Asian cultures, but the overall premise is very clearly inspired by Indian culture. Like the show is called Avatar; they know what they're doing. And the main character Aang is clearly based a little bit on Vishnu's avatar Vamana, I believe it's called, the dwarf one with the bald head and the umbrella. And so Aang's design looks very similar to that. And Aang has the avatar state where they have these visuals of him becoming gigantic. I'm like, that's the same thing Vamana does with the becoming gigantic. He even gets training from an Indian master at one point who talks about his chakras and stuff like that in the show. And I remember, like, up until that point, I was thinking in my head, this feels like it's based on Hindu avatars. Then we got to that point. I was like, okay, it is 100% based on Hindu avatars.
I do remember there's Warner Brothers probably, they produced a Ramayana animated film, I think. Maybe for India, maybe it like flew under the radar. But I do remember like one of my cousins were watching like Ramayana movie and it did have like the Warner Brothers logo. So I think it's worth like, I'm not really sure how accurate it is. I have not fully seen it, so I cannot say it's a great adaptation, but I know they didn't, but like there's also India itself like produced multiple animated films on Ramayana. I'm not sure if the subtitles available for it, but I think probably because like it's something that a lot of people say. But other thing is like Cartoon Network does like Krishna show like every Tuesday or something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. They didn't do it here, I can tell you that.
Yeah, that could be it could be like Cartoon Network India, but like I remember there's like Little Krishna. There's even like a movie they did with like Ekalavan.
We've been robbed over here. Jesus. I would love to see Little Krishna.
And I also actually thought I actually did put up a poll to my audience like which Hindu god would you like to see, and I thought like obviously Krishna's gonna win because like it's already people probably seen the Cartoon Network show and they'll be like we want Krishna, but surprisingly Hanuman won out. Everyone wants a movie of Hanuman, and I'm like okay, so it's Ramayana. That's what you basically want.
I guess that idea works out. Hanuman does have a lot of fun stories, like trying to eat was it the moon or the sun when he thought it was a fruit?
Yeah, he thought the sun was a fruit, and he was like, "I'm gonna eat it."
I'm gonna eat that, and the gods were like, "Don't do that."
And also the weird thing. But the one thing I have a problem with, like Hanuman, is won't be fitted to Disney. Yeah, he can't get married, guys. Like he's famously known for his chastity and like holding Ram and Sita in his heart. There's no room for anyone else. So he'll be a very like like a very solo guy movie. So that's like
I'm a lone wolf. You know, a loner. Alone. All alone. Forever. What's a wolf got to do to get a hug around here?
I'm curious. Do you have a favorite god?
Okay. I've mentioned this a lot, but Murugan is my favorite. He was the favorite when I was a kid. In Sri Lanka, the biggest Hindu temple we have is the Murugan temple, which is Kartikeyan, the god of war. He's the patron god of the Tamils. So even though like Shiva is still our worship main deity, Murugan is a great love to it because he's considered the god of our language. Also war.
Oh.
Yeah. Also war.
I actually didn't know about him. That's cool.
Yeah, so he's like our favorite, and like again, like he's a kid, most of his mythic stories, and he's like killing demons nonstop. The
There's a
most
lot of kids killing demons in Hinduism.
I did one sketch on like with pictures where it's like many gods of war meets. Like I even brought Kratos into this, like Ares, Kratos, and Odin meet. And then Murugan comes in, they're like, "Why?" And the Kratos looks like, "Why is there a boy here?" And all of that. It's in the list. He's the Hindu god of war. Like a child. He never grew up. Actually, the least he got was like probably 16, and that's only because he has to get married. They had to have that story, and that's how much he got old. And he also defeated like the Demon Lord's army and everything like by the age of 12. And it's like perfectly laid out for Disney for like a kid guy. You merge everything you can do from this. And I always want like Murugan's story to not only because he's my favorite, but he kind of is, but like that's what I actually want to see as in a movie. But like you also like God of War, so which character you would like to want to play as in a video game?
So here's the funny thing. I've actually already thought to myself in the past. I've thought like, you know, Krishna would work really well in a video game. And the reason for that is he fought a lot of monsters growing up. Like, you could so easily have a boss battle against Kalia. You could it could be insane with all the heads. You could have a boss battle against Keshi, even though in the actual myth all he did was shove his hand in Keshi and kill him immediately. But you can change it up a little in the game. You could have him fight the what was the bird monster called Bakasura or something. And yeah, you could have all the different monsters Krishna fought. You could have like it lean into him teaming up with the Pandava brothers. You could have them be allies in the game. You could have the game end with the Kurukshetra War, which is insane. I love that story so much. Like that's something I really, really would love to see brought to like either movie form or TV show form or game form. I know there is an animated movie about the Mahabharata that I have seen, and it's good, but like I'd love to just see it all be crazy in live action because what happens at Kurukshetra is bigger than Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
They have every single character from the whole story, which has spanned like 3 generations, all coming in, all of their kids. And it's like, all right, time to kill everyone. It's insanity, and I love it. When I got to that part in the book, I was like, okay, this just became one of the most amazing cultures I've ever read.
But they put like they would say like the war section where there's like it's like the whole army forms into the Vajra, then it would form into the Sudarsana Chakra. It's like it's like Lord of the Rings, but like double the budget.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely nuts. And I would love to see a video game try to incorporate fighting with the Sudarshana Chakra, the disc. like how would they do that? That could be so interesting.
I can already see like one complaint though. They'll be like, Krishna does he can just like destroy the whole thing in the blink of an eye.
Exactly. That's one reason I don't think it'll happen anytime soon. I mean, who knows? Maybe I'll make it. But
do it, I'll play it.
Do it!
Hell yeah. No, yeah, that's the one thing that would be a problem. In order for it to be a fair game, there has to be a possibility you can die, and people would be like, Krishna cannot be killed. And I'd be like, well, what do you want? The game to be impossible to lose at? Like, suspend your disbelief.
Maybe you can have like an end screen cutscene where Vishnu basically says like, that wasn't supposed to happen. Restart.
Yeah, you could have it like you could have the game be like a story someone's telling, like Vishnu or someone, and then when he dies, Vishnu could be like, "Wait, that's not what happened. Let's go back," and then go back to before you.
That would actually fit, and although like I do get like one of them because like it's also very brutal. Like even like Krishna's story. Although I did see this in animated series, by the way, where Krishna baby literally chokes out like the nanny monster that's like sent to kill him, and he's like, and, like, okay, Krishna's a literal murder baby. Okay, go.
Krishna is like, don't mess with Krishna, really. Don't mess with any Hindu deity. It's not going to end well. Unless you are Krishna, then you can mess with Indra all you want.
And it's the funniest thing with like also with like Krishna is like he's also one of the chill out dudes as well. Like I would say you could have your way with a little bit of Krishna because like he's also playful and he's charming and he will let you in there, but don't mess with this guy. He's
Oh,
all enlightened and everything, but he throws temper tantrums like every Tuesdays. So like be
oh, I know.
careful with this guy.
Like again in our card game, like in each culture we have a god who's the most powerful, and with Hindu it was easy. I just went Shiva, and like, well, it was like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah,
all,
it's Shiva.
all the Vaishnavas will be like, no, that's not it. It's Vishnu, and the Shiva's like, hey, it's Shiva. We're happy. We're happy. Keep that up.
It's like, look, I can't please all of you. Just
Although you'd be very happy that the god of creation is the most downplayed character in like Hindu mythology. Brahma is like, it's like Vishnu and Shiva, they could be equals, but like Brahma, creation, down.
everyone's like, who's stronger? Is it Vishnu or is it Shiva? And then there's one guy, what about Brahma? And they look at him, what about him?
There's actually Saiva is the reason how we just justify it is that like Brahma has like some bad habits. One is that whenever you pray to Brahma, like all the asuras most of the time got their boons from Brahma.
Yeah.
You pray to Brahma and it's like, okay, here you go. No worries. Like not even thinking like, what if he turns evil? Nah, I don't care.
And Vishnu's just like, oh, now I gotta go down there and kill him.
Like,
like,
dude, it's like, dude.
Brahma, why'd you make that man unable to die on land or in sea, at day or at night, inside or outside?
Now I gotta think like new creation to do that. Like I can't rehash the same character. I have to, like, and this is all the creative ways they always ask for like boons. And the other thing is like Brahma is also he's also slightly arrogant. Like
Yeah.
there's one time it literally got to his head, and she was like, "One head, come by," and he literally took off one head.
Yeah.
There's one story where there's like Brahma and Vishnu were like fighting, not actually fighting, but like arguing like who's the most powerful among them. And then suddenly like a giant pillar of divine flame came out of the cosmos and it kept going up and literally challenged them. If you can find the top and the bottom of it, whoever does that first, they're the like the A god. And Vishnu turns himself into a boar and he digs beneath the cosmos while Brahma shoots up. Although he couldn't find it, so he lies with the lotus flower and say, "Just say that I did. Just say that I did."
Just be cool. Just be cool.
Vishnu actually does dug up and finds Shiva's feet. And what he does, like he touches the feet. And when he touches the feet, Shiva's like, "Oh no, somebody's touching my feet. I gotta get them up. It's Vishnu." And like because like it's kind of disrespectful to let him touch your feet, so he's like, "No, get up." And then Vishnu is like, "Touch your head." So it's like the easiest ways to Shiva's top is to go to be humble about it, and that's what Vishnu figured out. If he was humble, Shiva would let him win, and that's why like Vishnu's like really important to Shiva as well, and Shiva vice versa. While Brahma is like, you cheated, you don't get a temple, no one worships you. Be that.
Honestly, yeah. Like from what I can tell, it seems like, to me anyway, Shiva seems like the most powerful, but Vishnu feels like the most versatile. Like, yeah, like Vishnu's creative. I mean, you have to be to defeat Hiranyakashipu, and like to figure out. He's always going down in different avatars where he figures out what to do. Whereas Shiva, like, just as I have just as much respect for that character, but like Shiva's solution is usually, all right, let's blow it up.
Kaboom.
But again, like what do you expect? He's the god of destruction. That's the simplest solution that he would think of. But
Like-
but even he would be like, I know your favorite goddess is Kali, where like he would be like, oh no, she lost it. She went overboard.
He's like, hey, I've got my limits, all right? Kali's, she's her own thing.
And also, like, I do want to like, there is a version of like in the South India where there's like the female goddess is actually the most powerful. They call it as like Adivara Shakti. So in that sort of like, I think it's like Shaktism or so. Us is the Shivaism, and they have the Shaktism. Whereas like Adivara Shakti literally created Shiva and all the other gods, and the goddesses were like they're the ones who giving powers to the Mumurti, the Trinity, and they get their powers from their wives, and like she's like the biggest goddess. That's actually a part of South India where they do go into like Kali and everyone. For them, they're the most powerful, and of course the Vaishnavas will put more greatest impetus on Vishnu. I still haven't came across anyone who puts came across on the importance on Brahma, but I'm not sure. And the other thing, like you said, you said, like you're also not. I'm also not Indian. That's the other people don't really get. Like I'm Sri Lankan, guys. Uh, I'm from. I'm the Demon Island. I'm from where Ravana's from. I always wanted like you can do a sketch where there's like Indian people look at the Sri Lankans and they go, demons, gotta be demons. They're too huge. They're too big. They have too many heads.
Do I look abominable to you?
You gobbled all the myths of probably, even if you haven't fully finished it, you just like touched upon all of the myths. So like how do the stories and also the philosophy and the lessons differ to other mythologies in your opinion?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of different cultures usually have like a theme that recurs every here and there. With Christianity, there's a lot of the theme is like redeeming yourself or like forgiveness or stuff like that, because and some people misunderstand that. Some people go, you're all sinners and you all need to like hate yourselves and feel bad. It's like you're misunderstanding the point. Something I see a lot in Hinduism that I do also see in Japanese culture a little bit, now that I think about it, is the theme of honor. Like, doing the right thing, being upstanding, even when there's like, even if it will get you killed, even if it will like get you, like what happened to the Pandavas, even if it will make you lose everything, like just what's important is you stay true and you keep doing the right thing. And that's very respectable in my opinion. I do. Sometimes it's a little infuriating, like during the great gambling match, where it's like he's cheating, just stop playing. Like my
No,
God,
it's an honor. I sat to play this game, so I must finish this game. If I
I
leave, it
can
will be
walk
dishonoring.
away like a little bitch. Like, it's like we all know he's cheating. You can stop. Like, but yeah, that is a recurring theme. Norse, the recurring theme is glorious battle and glorious death. The Vikings were literally trying to die so that they could get into Valhalla. Like so, with Norse, I'd say the big theme is glory. Yeah, with Greek. I'm gonna be honest. I know Greek probably the best. I still don't know what the lesson is supposed to be in Greek. Everything has such a tragic ending.
God! What does it all mean?
Theme of Greek is it doesn't matter what you do, shit's gonna happen. I guess, like, which is why a lot of people ask me, "Hey, if a religion or mythology other than Christianity was real, which one would you want?" I always say Hindu. I'm like, Hinduism is like, if I have to pick one other than like my own, I'd go with Hindu. I feel like the Hindu gods care a lot about the people. I feel like the lessons are very moral and very upstanding. And then some people say, well, aren't the Japanese gods also very moral? And doesn't that also have a theme of honor? I'm like, yes, but in Japan, your towels are trying to kill you. I don't want that. Like,
Also, that you can have like different interpretations of like from what it is. Like, have you read the like Bhagavad Gita? Have you got around to reading that one?
is that the third big epic? Because I remember I was
So
reading.
it is in the Mahabharata. It is where like that's like our religious like the most sacred text. It is a part of Mahabharata where Arjuna was like unable to participate in the war. Where it's like I can't kill my cousins, I can't kill my relatives. What am I doing here? And then Vishnu gets up, freezes time, and then he explains the universe to him. And like that's the section that's called Bhagavad Gita.
I have read that. Yes, in the book I read though it didn't like differentiate which thing is which section. It just told the different chapters. So that's why, yeah, I read the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and I was starting to read. I remember there was a third epic, and I can't remember what it was called, so it's driving me nuts. But yeah, I there are a lot of like Krishna and Arjuna interacting, like that point when Krishna turns into what's it called, Navagunjara, I believe, the
Yeah, like
thing
the
with the
cat
peacock
man.
head.
The reason why I said like Bhagavad Gita is like I got like the very different thing from like Vishnu's perspective. Like Vishnu's in like whole Hindu mythology and like him interacting with humans. Like my brain, I know you're a man of it. I'm agnostic. Like I started out as like about like Hindu good little Hindu boy, like said like every prayers and stuff like that. Then I started watching Animal Planet and like that kind of made me like question a lot of things. And then I became very religious again and then, as a teenager. And then now I'm like, I don't know. Okay, I really don't know. uh, but I do like appreciate the teachings and the philosophies, and I think do like Hinduism does have like good philosophies, and like everyone goes back to the Bhagavad Gita, and the reason for that is there's actually a line that says like Vishnu's like what to telling Arjuna is like whatever is going to happen will happen splendidly. What is yours today will be tomorrow's tomorrow. Just basically from that perspective, what I'm hearing is that like in Dune, I think Paul Atreides sometimes like gets high on spice and he sees a bit of the cosmos and he realizes like no one can comprehend the cosmos and like
Yeah.
as we know it, but it's that sort of realization is what like Vishnu is basically selling. Is like fate is a huge thing in Hindu mythology. There's always like there's the narration was like, is it free will? Is it fate? They're always like in Hindu playing with both of the ideas. Sometimes God say like it is fate, we can't do anything about it, and then sometimes say no, we can overcome it. They're always like contradicting those kind of points. But from what I've got from the Bhagavad Gita and like a Vishnu like revealing himself to be like a cosmic deity and everything, like, hey, the cosmos is too big and too vast to comprehend for yourself. Just live your life to the best of your abilities. Be good, honorable, and do what you're told. You'll be great.
Yeah, I love that too, because that's like exactly what I get behind. Like I've talked about like my beliefs before, and like people want me to be so like definitive in what I believe, and it's like, look, I can, and they're like, oh, but you say you're Christian. I go, yes, because the definition of Christian is you believe Christ existed. I do believe he existed, and I do believe there's a higher power out there, and I call that higher power God. And but like I'm not going to be all definitive about it. Like a lot of people say, oh, this definitely happened, that definitely happened. I'm like, you, how can I possibly know that? How can we possibly know that? I'm sure something happened. Like, but I also know that like these ancient texts, they weren't written by the actual gods. Like it was still some guy writing it. And people who literally, people who write stuff about me on the internet don't even get my birthday right half the time. So it's like, am I supposed to trust 5,000-year-old Frank recording exactly what God said in
Trust me, bro. Trust me, bro.
like, so I believe that yes, there are things that happened. I partially think that we each culture might have a piece of it. Like, and like I do believe there's something out there. I don't fully know what it is, but I'm open to seeing what it is. And some people say, well, if you don't believe exactly this, you won't get into heaven. And I go, you know what? I think just try to, like you said, just try to live a good life. Try to live a life where you're not ashamed of the things you've done, and like try to do. There's a lot of teachings in almost every religion that I think hold up very well. Treat people how you want to be treated. Like try to live a life where you can be proud of yourself, live honorably, as like Hindu culture says and Japanese culture says, and forgive people, as Christianity says. And it's like, just be a good person. And then I think when you die, if God is as great as everybody says he is, or she, or them, millions of gods, like I think they'll just look at you and be like, yeah, you're pretty cool, like come hang out in our club.
And that's also the other thing. Like whenever like Hindu gods, especially like like Krishna or Vishnu, any of his avatars kill someone, they get instant moksha. They skip all the heaven step and everything. They instantly achieve moksha, where
Yeah,
they become one with the universe and be one
just
with God.
VIP.
Yeah, it's like, oh, cool. I'm ready to die if you want, because it's like great. Like skip so many reincarnations. We literally sing this little brother where it's like you'll be a bird, you'll be a worm. You go through like all the reincarnations. That nope, I killed you. You get an instant pass. You go right up there and like be one with the universe and be fully enlightened and everything. So Yeah.
And some people say such ridiculous things, like when I've talked to like Catholic people about Hindu and Indian culture, sometimes they say stuff. Oh, they can't even agree on anything. Like the northern ones and the southern ones. Like there's people who think Vishnu is supreme. There's people who think Shiva is supreme. As you said, there's people who think female deities are supreme. They're like, they can't even agree on anything. And I'm like, yeah, we can't either. Did you forget we have Catholics, Protestants, and Orthodox all in the Christian umbrella, and then in the Abrahamic umbrella we have Jewish people and Muslim people and all this other stuff. Even if you don't believe in anything, there's different versions of that. There's atheist, anti-religious, and agnostic. It's like there's always, you will never get everyone to agree on anything.
That's why all gods basically say life is complex, the cosmos is incomprehensible. Be still.
Exactly.
And also like when you mentioned about the honor and stuff, and I do like Vishnu also, like I think that's why like complex characters where like Vishnu even like explains like Yudhishthira and stuff, like, dude, you know that what you did is wrong. And, like, screw your honor. I had to save your wife. I had to do that. So, and like, but what about honor? Screw that. What are you doing?
Look, everybody screws up here and there.
Yeah. Vishnu's like specific. That's why I say also again, like he is a god, and like he can see everything, and he say, okay, I know that's good, and I know that's wrong. I know if I cheat here, it will end up good in here. So the other people don't have that good like future vision. At least they don't have it, so I know they're blind to it. But again, forgiveness is also a good aspect. That's one of the things I really like about Christianity is like the forgiveness. And the real thing is, we all have the moments where we go like, that shouldn't have that. And that's not an easy thing for people. It stays with you. Every time you screws up, they say like, time heals all wounds. But no, every time you take a shower, the memory just blasts back. Like, oh no, it came back.
It really does, and it comes back at 3 a.m. while you're trying to sleep.
So, like, how you actually deal with? I know that people deal with faith, and I think that's good. That's healthy. There's a good way to do about it. And also, if you're like agnostic like me, you can just accept the philosophy that like you accept your insignificance and your unknowableness and be happy. Yeah, that's just a stupid mistake that Rat from a Cosmos did. Like, who cares?
Sure.
So the other things I want to ask you is like, so we are in the territory of like, we are nerds. Both of us are nerds. Just we'll be honest. And some of the religious people will not accept it, but they're nerds too. They argue the same thing with like Superman versus Batman.
If you can quote exact pages and references to the Bible, I'm sorry, you're a nerd. Like, you studied that the way people study Star Wars. Like, nerd! You can argue it's more important, but you're still like, you can still quote shit word for word. That's nerd behavior.
and because of that, again, people take a chill pill. I do want to talk about like mythology matchups. I just want to get it out there because like even like after we've seen your videos and they also see my reaction videos, and then when I said like especially the Record of Ragnarok video where I just like pointed out like you said like Zeus better back the fuck up or like
yeah. No, even when I first watched that, that was what I said out loud. I said, Zeus, back the fuck up before you get smacked the fuck.
I realized like then I do point out like maybe chaos is again like my knowledge in Greek, like some of you from your videos, most of it, and I was like seeing pop culture stuff, and I also seen the bad Percy Jackson. I'll talk about that later, but but the thing is like I do want to ask like, so is chaos a good matchup for Lord Shiva?
I think it's putting like pure omnipotence aside, I think that is the best you're gonna get, because chaos is vague enough. Like it's just said it, like the Greeks themselves believed chaos was this endless, unstoppable, primordial being, completely unpredictable, that just embodied the complete aspect and was the first being in existence as well. So that the reason I compare that to Shiva is, there's a lot of people who believe Shiva was the first being and also encompasses the entire universe and has the ability to destroy and recreate it if he wants. The Greeks believe that too. Chaos could destroy and recreate everything if it wanted to. So that's the reason I put Chaos like on the same level as Shiva, because like I made that decision a while ago because people keep asking like, hey, who are the two most powerful beings? And I say, all right, well, if you put Christian God aside, and I only say that because Christian God is already unfairly described in the Bible. Don't blame me, blame whoever wrote that. They literally wrote omniscient and omnipotent, so that literally means you know and can do anything. How am I supposed to compete with that? There are versions of Shiva that are said to be omnipotent, so you could say he can square up against Christian God. I won't get mad about that.
I honestly like I would be saying like if you put like Indra against the Christian god, I would be like, no. But like if you're putting like the big guys like Shiva and even Vishnu, I would say like, that's a good match.
Yeah, potentially Vishnu too. Yeah.
I was like, that's a good match. I'm like, I have zero problems with that. But it's like a lot of people like actually do comment. I was like, how about like they even like comment to my other videos and like say like, what about Chaos? Can Chaos beat like? I personally really don't know much. I know that you did one mention like a primordial being. Like, okay, that's right. But now that you described it, that's like very close to Shiva. You would say like it's
and that's what I base it off. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, there's also someone else also talked to me about like Amun Ra. He's not talking about Ra, the sun god. He said like Egyptians have the version where like Amun Ra is like it's all the suns. It's not just one sun or something like that. So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, it's here's the thing. Here's the thing about Egyptian mythology is every time there was a new pharaoh, he wanted to redo their religion. So it's very difficult.
Kind of like us. Kind of like us.
Every time there was a damn new pharaoh in Egypt, he went, I had a dream last night, and now Bob is the most powerful god. Sometimes a dream is just a dream. Calm down. In Egyptian mythology, some would say Atum, the first great sun being, was the most powerful being, but others would tell you Ma'at, the pure embodiment of order, is the most powerful being. But then later, people would say, no, it's Ra. Ra is actually the sun god. And then you'd have another pharaoh saying, well, that's only because Ra is Atum, who has now become Ra. And then you have another pharaoh later who goes, no, it's Amun. Amun is the best. And they go, why? And he goes, because I made him up and I like him. and then the pharaoh who came after that went, no, I'm going to please everyone. Amun is now merged with Ra, and he's Amun Ra, and he has all of the abilities. That's how it happened, basically. And then you've got pharaohs like Akhenaten who are like, no, I hate how many gods we have. Get rid of all except one, and he's the best. It's too much. I can't memorize all that.
That's how like we even self-cope. Like we do say like, okay, Shiva is the most powerful, but like we also have to like give to our Vaishnava brothers. We were like, we need to give them credit as well. So like Shiva is Vishnu and Vishnu is Shiva. He is all and everything. So like, happy, confused, great.
No, yeah, like when I was doing research, I found one story that said Shiva came out of Vishnu, and I found another story that said Vishnu came out of Shiva, and I was like, okay, that's clearly two different groups, like coming up with stuff, and that's
I actually called and like, okay, they didn't teach me this thing, so like let me check. And I called one of my friends who's also teachers, and I'm like, okay, get some Hindu teachers and like ask him this story. Did one of them like come out of the eyebrow and came out of the feet? Is that a real thing? I want to know. And they're like, how dare you? That's not a thing. Shiva is the most powerful. He's the one. They literally quoted this phrase, which is what I learned in school as well. About Adiyum Andamum Illadavim. So basically, I mean, Adi means like beginning, Anda means end. It doesn't have either. So how dare you say he gave a birthday story to Shiva? I was like, okay, cool. I forgot I asked.
You're absolutely right. Forget it. I shouldn't have asked.
When I did that in my Where Do Baby Gods Come From video, I was like, okay, like this is clearly two different stories, so I'm just going to have the dad in this video recreate how I felt when I read this. I don't know how that works. And of course, people in the comments, there was one group of Hindu people who was like, no, Vishnu didn't come out of Shiva. It was just Shiva coming out of Vishnu. And then people reply to that guy going, you're an idiot. It's the other way around. And then someone replies to it going, no, they both came from Brahma. And I'm like, why do I... that one Brahma fan.
Well, the thing is, like, it's like, so we have also have the concept of like Brahmin, which is like the thing. But like again, that gets interpreted. It's like Brahmin is actually Shiva, guys. That's what we tell ourselves. That's our coping mechanism. So the idea of Brahmin is Shiva, just like he's being Shiva to us, so it's easy to understand. They just call it as Brahmin. But then no one gave credit to Brahma. So again, also a little bit of a touch upon the pronunciation as well. Like that's also the thing. Like names, this is a thing that happened in India. Maybe it's like Indians fact check this, but I do hear that one time when they were deciding what is the national language of India, and they're going to go with Hindi. And then the Tamils basically actually fought against that. They said, no, most of us can't understand that. I know it's from India, but we can't understand that. Make it English. And English actually a national language of India because it's much easier to understand English more than Hindi itself for people who already live in India.
I've often joked the only reason I can speak English is because it's so easy. Like, it's the only language I know.
I would say, again, English is a second language for me. Speaking it was like, it wasn't that hard, but writing it, because like Tamil is like very specific.
I imagine that's a huge change. Like, and your English is great, by the way.
Thank you so much. But like, again, like I sometimes do online stand up, and I even joke about this. It's like, so you clearly don't write it as you say it. So you must have some sort of structure rules. Let me figure that out. And there's like, okay, there are some grammar rules. Okay, list me of all the grammar rules. There's also exception. List me all the grammar rules with the exceptions. And they say, there's too many. We can't do that for all of them. Then why have a rule?
I've joked about that with my friends too. It's like, why do we have 3 different ways to spell Kristen? Why are we spelling night with a K? There's no K in this word, you morons. Why are we wasting our lives like this?
And that's why, like, when we sometimes like throw names, they actually change names. So like for Karthikeyan, right? Like for us, it's Surabatman. That's the bad guy. But like for Hindi people, it's like Taragasuran. Change for some reason. I don't know. Why couldn't you just keep the name? But for some reason, we changed it.
Change begets change begets change.
People actually like correct my pronunciation. Say, why you keep saying Krishnan? It's Krishna. There's no in the end. There's like, that's how we say it in Tamil. I'm Tamil. I say that in my videos.
There's no winning. There's absolutely no winning because like when I made a video talking about the Pandava brothers, I looked up pronunciations from like 3 different sources and I was like, okay, I guess you guys don't pronounce the A at the end of each name. So instead of Arjuna, it's just Arjun. Instead of Yudhishthira, it's just Yudhishthir. And I make the video and I get 2 types of comments that keep popping up. One is, how about you do some goddamn research and actually learn the pronunciation before you like make a video on a culture you clearly don't understand? And the other one was, I really appreciate that you clearly took the time to research this and do the correct pronunciations when you made this video. And I'm sitting there like, I'm just gonna focus on one of those comments.
I'm gonna give you the validation right now. You would ace every Hindu test because like you are so good at names. But every languages, by the way, that's an insane feat.
I will tell you, I'm not good at it at first. One time I came into work and a friend of mine was asking me about my game and I listed some of the Aztec characters in there. And another friend I have who's Mexican is like, hey, it's so great that you're so passionate about this. You are butchering all of those names. And then he told me how to pronounce them. I was like, oh my God, thank you. I was calling the Awizota Ahuizotl. It was so embarrassing.
But I am very, again, like the only thing that I sometimes like, because of the pronunciation, I probably don't know like what that is. And then I have to look it up. I mean, like even your Betala videos are like, what is a Betala? What the heck? That's the Betala. And then like, And then you describe what it is, and like, oh, it's the Vedalam. Okay, I get it. But the thing is, like, I don't want to like. I gave a brief language lesson in that one, but other than that, I don't want to mess it because I'm not really sure which language that they read it in Hindi and then translated, or whether they saw it in Tamil and they translated it. I do not know. And again, English is already screwy, and English is also easy in a sense, like pronunciation. Sometimes I even say like, so we don't pronounce Lord Shiva's name as Lord Shiva. That's not a thing. We call him as Siva Peruman. That's how we say it. And again, when I'm mixing two languages, it's much easier for me to say Lord Shiva than to go and like, so we are talking about Siva Peruman. That's like an instant drop and then reset for me. And I'm already juggling too many things in my brain. Too many. Your research is good. I'm always really surprised by like how, again, I know you focus on entertainment, but like you're the most educational entertainer, I would say, because like you do your research.
Thank you very much.
You do it so well. Like even I have to go, I learned something today. I did not know that. Like again, Agni's role in Murugan's story, none. We didn't talk about it. There was no Agni in Murugan's story. And when you said it, so he clearly does research. I need to look this up. And I looked it up, and Wikipedia says, like, okay, in like the Sakanda Purana, which is like the Hindi version of the Kanda Purana, not really sure who came first. You guys fight about it in the comments. I don't care. But like in that one, they do say like Agni's role is there. Agni is the one who carried Shiva's sparks. Let's just say sparks.
Yeah. His bits, so to say.
and in here, we actually took out the whole sleeping business out. So it's basically Shiva getting pissed off that like there's a demon causing trouble and there's causing suffering, and literally opens his eyes and like 6 flames come out. And a kid me, again, like that's the story I would appreciate, but the adult me will be like, yeah, we're very conservative. We might edit that. I get why we edited that.
Yeah, it's also like people in the comments of a video, like when I make a joke that like, oh, Shiva gave his seed to Agni to put in the river. Sometimes people comment like, hey, that's not the more widely accepted version. The more widely accepted one was that he gave him a spark. And I go, I know, but I'm here to be funny, so I'm going to talk about the version where it's his seed, because that's weirder. Like, I'm gonna talk about the weird stuff.
I mean, like it's a joke, guys. Again, the whole point is making sketches. That's what we do.
The whole point is I'm giving you as little context as possible to emphasize how weird this sounds. It's like when I was looking at what are some lesser known stories about Indra, and I found this story that isn't. I don't think it's widely accepted, but it does exist, where Indra's eyes all used to be vaginas.
Yeah.
And I was looking at that.
Calling them as eyes.
It's the technical term for vagina.
Yeah, and I was looking at that going, I'm not gonna talk about that.
It's great that you brought up Indra, because like I do want to talk about this. Like Indra versus Zeus. Who are you betting on?
Oh, that's a little tricky. Because they actually are very similar. They both have like this thunder-based weapon. They've both defeated like this gigantic dragon. Indra does have his army of Maruts, though Zeus has Olympus, but then Indra has the other devil. Okay, I'm gonna say they don't get to ask for help.
It's a 1v1, no tag teams.
One of the reasons I might give it to Indra is because I do consider and I'm not just saying this to pander, this is honestly how I feel. I do think the Hindu pantheon is kind of on another level. Mm-hmm. Like they saw their gods as just so incredibly powerful. So that's how I choose to believe they are in canon. Whereas the Greeks, even though they did see Zeus as very powerful, I don't think they saw their gods as good as the Indian people did. Like there are stories where a random soldier in the Trojan War beats the crap out of Ares. There are stories where Hypnos just puts Zeus to sleep to shut him up while the other gods do things without him. Like
it is thing like I do agree on that one. They again, like for power levels, again from my nerd standards, again the closest I can think of again is chaos, and the other thing I would go is like Cthulhian mythos, which is not a real mythology.
Yeah.
I did came across images, but just from a site where there's actually said like all of Lovecraft's like big deities, like how they are very close, how they describe to like Hindu gods, except they're evil. I mean like incomprehensible, but like most of the
all
time they're evil.
all monstrous and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
So it's like we are the opposite, but like same as powerful. But for Indra specifically, the reason why I might say I think Zeus can take him. The reason why I'm saying this, mythology guys, is because like in every story, India is the jobber. Like he's like whenever a demon gets power, the first thing they do and take over Indra Loga, they go like, "I kicked your ass, get out."
That's true. I haven't seen a story other than the story of Vritra where Indra actually wins. I think.
Most of the time, he runs to Vishnu or Shiva and goes like, "I just got my butt kicked. Please help, please."
You know what? You may be right there. You actually may be completely right there. Because Indra loses a lot. I mean, hell, if a random sage can put 100 vaginas on his body.
I mean,
it's true,
Zeus,
yeah.
I mean, Zeus at least has some victory creds. But I do, this is from a historical perspective. This is not from a mythology perspective. But I do remember sometimes like learning in history, like Indra is probably like much more ancient. Before even like the accepted Hindu mythos was even like developing. Although people will disagree on this, but like I kind of have this a hint of history, but you guys argue about it in the comments. But they do say that Indra is like very old and he used to be like really powerful, but then he got really nerfed down when like this like huge figures like Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahma rose up, and it's like his role became like so minuscule, and even like his victories kind of turned into losses, and that's why he's like very pathetic now.
I check.
That sounds about right. It sounds like originally like Indra was like, yeah, he beat up Vritra, he's amazing. Then later people were like, I prefer Vishnu. Let's have him beat Indra's ass and humble him, and like let's have everyone beat the crap out of Indra. I've heard some people in my comments have said that Indra is actually a title, and there have been several Indras. I don't know if that's true. I haven't found a source for that.
This is not something that like Saivas would ever say. Like like I even heard like there's sometimes like Asuras, Indra and Agni were referred to as Asuras for some reason from an overly sarcastic production video. There was like a note, and I was like that never came across. Like Indra is like the Deva among Devas. He's the
Indra's the ruler of the Devas under the High Trinity, I believe.
That's also the thing I want to ask. Like, how is like the thunder gods or basically sky gods generally became like the ruler of like whatever the fiefdom that they own, instead of being like, except for Egyptian where they do put like the sun god as the one. But why are the other cultures are like, no, lightning is better? Why is that?
So it's a little hard to say exactly why like because it's not like I can ask them, but I do, from what I've seen, it does just seem to be this recurring theme of whatever's up is considered the most powerful in a lot of cultures. Like like as you know, Indra is an example, Zeus is an example, but the truth is, in my experience, there's a lot more sun god rulers than there are sky or thunder god rulers. Because there's Egyptian, like you said. There's either Ra or Atum or Amun Ra, all sun deities. Depending on who you ask, one of them is the ruler. But there's also, in Japanese culture, Amaterasu is the queen of the gods, and she is goddess of the sun. In Aztec mythology, they actually keep having their king of the gods change, and every time it's another sun god. Tezcatlipoca was the first one. Then he got overthrown by Quetzalcoatl, who became the next sun god. And it was a rule like, when you're not the ruler anymore, you can't be sun god anymore. Like Tezcatlipoca went from being sun god to now jaguar god. Quetzalcoatl went from sun god to actually
past the flaming ball. You are overthrown.
Yeah. Then after Quetzalcoatl, it was Tlaloc, who then went from that to rain god. Then Calquiatlique, who went from that to water god. Then Tonatiuh was the sun god. And then some other people consider Huitzilopochtli to be the sun god. Like, Aztec is the most sun god heavy craziness I've ever seen, I think. But then there's stuff like Celtic mythology where the ruler, the Dagda, is actually just god of life and death.
Ooh.
Because they had a different way of looking at things. Because Celtic was close to Norse, where their ruler was Odin, who was god of war and death, because, the Norse loved their war.
Just point to where we bring the violence.
Whoa,
I think it really just depends on what's valued where you are or what's the most feared. Like, I think in Mexico and in Egypt, the sun was very feared because it was hot as balls over there. So they said, oh, our supreme deity is the sun. And then meanwhile, over in Norway and Ireland, they never see the sun because it's cloudy as all hell. So they're like, all right, and they don't see the sky either because it's cloudy as all hell. So they're like, no, we don't worship the sun or the sky. We have God of war and death and God of life and death.
Life is being accepted, my children.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas in places like Greece, like it's a lot more mountainous. So I believe that's why they came up with the idea of Mount Olympus. It's like, well, what are mountains touch the sky? So the ruler must be the sky god. But it's not like especially hot in Greece, so I don't think they saw the sun as much of a supreme deity over there. It's hard for me to speak to Japan. They've actually changed from their supreme god Izanagi, god of creation, to Amaterasu, goddess of the sun. It's hard to speak for that. But I imagine India had something similar going on. But India also has the High Trinity, who are gods of creation, preservation, and destruction, and seen as these universal, out in outer space beings, because that's even higher than the sky is outer space. And China had that too with the Jade Emperor. He was god of the whole universe. So I'd say it mainly comes just from what your locale is like. What do you see the most? What hurts you the most? What do you see as the most? Wow, that's so grand. That's so heavenly. Clearly, our supreme god would be god of that. That's my theory on it. It's hard to say exactly.
Because you say that, I do agree. Even stories of in Indra sometimes. I think the biggest story is where it's he caused a huge rain, then Krishna had to put a mountain over it to stop it.
Yeah.
And because in that section, I do get the rain is the thing for harvest, and that's why Indra, everyone's oh, well, we need rain, and considering the dry season India and stuff, which is so humid, and so they go famines and stuff. So maybe that's how you put it. The sky gods, in a sense, are more productive the way of life. They have to put good importance of it, and as they got developed a little bit more, they can think about big ideas, whereas creation, preservation, that kind of Cthulian ideas they can go into. And I still remember seeing this clip from YouTube, which is Carl Sagan talking about Hinduism. And again, this is how I say even Hindus learn from when Western people do stuff and they're like, I never heard of that. I need to check that. I was oh, that's a thing. Because in here they never talked about multiverses, aliens, or stuff like that. That never. They just say they describe powers incomprehensible and stuff like that. And they do talk about Prapancham, other planets, and stuff that, and also they are deities themselves, the other planets. But Carl Sagan was the one who said Hinduism is the first culture to think about the multiverse.
There are an infinite number of other universes, each with its own god, dreaming the cosmic dream.
And I was why wasn't a thing this in school? This would have been cool.
That is something I came across too, and I was wait a minute, that's amazing.
And that's the first time that I actually learned. That's why I'm saying I'm always pro culture sharing, because I think that's how, I guess, we do it all. That we watch so many medias from Greek, Christian, and all stuff like that, and it's just fair to share ours as well. And who knows, you might learn something, because I've stated in many videos, Hinduism is ridiculously big.
It is. It's insane, how big it is, and that's great because it's just more to enjoy. Some people want to just close off their culture and be no, I don't want anyone else talking about it because they won't understand it. It's well, of course they won't understand it if nobody talks about it. How are they going to understand it?
the gateway needs to be there because, like, again, you want to, again, best thing that humans do is communicate. And again, like I think most people on the internet, you all grew up in the world of globalization where we all, like, I'm having this talk with a guy from like America and like a different time zone. Like, again, this is the best thing that we have right now. And like, just enjoy with it and imagine all the cool stuff we can create together. And that actually brings me to my next topic that I want to discuss. Like, what is a good adaptation, like in your standard?
All right. So in order to make, I think, a good adaptation, I think you really have to understand, or at least really love the original, like what you're adapting. You know, we've seen adaptations from people who either don't give a crap about what they're adapting or clearly don't understand it, and it comes out really bad. But if you look at certain stuff, like, for example, I'll just use this as an example again because it's the first thing to come to mind. Avatar: The Last Airbender. One of the reasons people like it so much, a lot of people don't even know that's an adaptation of all these different Asian cultures. But one of the reasons it is so good is because of how it pays respect to the different fighting styles from those different cultures, how much research they clearly did into how chakras work and how like different cultures like have different architecture and different beliefs, and they really did a lot of world building around something that kind of already existed. You take a look at this game that recently came out, Black Myth Wukong, and that game is so filled with love and passion and knowledge of the journey to the West that it's based on. And it just shows constantly, as someone who read and loved Journey to the West growing up, I was playing it and constantly going, ooh, ooh, ooh. But the thing is, because also it was so high quality, there were so many people who loved that game and had no idea what it was talking about.
I actually watch your gameplay videos. One, again, that will never run on my potato. But the other thing is, like, yeah, I have no idea where the story is going. Like, I'll make the mythology guy describe these things to me. So, like, because, like, I think the first thing Monkey Kong from like Jet Li, Jackie Chan movie. That's all I know from the Monkey King.
Forbidden Kingdom. Yeah, I remember that movie.
Yeah.
What makes it special also when you do your research and pay respect to the original is it makes it that the more people learn about the original, the more they like your adaptation. Because again, with Black Myth Wukong, people were already buying and loving that game because it was high quality and it was gorgeously done. And there were all these insane characters, which were mostly just pulled right out of Chinese culture because there is so much already to offer in that culture. And they just already loved it. But then they came to me because they were like, hey, I love this game. What the Sam hell is going on? Can you tell me? And then I would tell them either in my streams or in my Q&As or in the video I recently made explaining all the bosses. And everyone after seeing that stuff would comment, oh my God, I love the game more now.
That's what it is? Now I like it even more.
Like when the Percy Jackson movies came out, a lot of people actually thought those movies were okay.
I'm one of those people, Mythology Guy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and no, there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people worked hard on that. It's good when people enjoy them. I made my video because, like, I thought, all right, let's express why book fans don't like the movies. Because I kept seeing people argue all the time, saying, I hate the book fans. Why can't they enjoy the movies? And I was like, all right, well, let me tell you why. And then I did in the video, and a lot of people in the comments went, okay, I get it now. And then a lot of people went, I read the books now, and now I actually hate the movies. I'm like, well, that wasn't my intention. I wasn't trying to ruin it for you.
This is the same thing like that would happen to me with Witcher. So like I played the Witcher game. I love it so much. And then the show came out, and like, you know what? Oh, let me just read the book. And I read the book, like, okay, now I hate why people hate the first season. I hate it too.
Yeah, so that's what I say. When it's a good adaptation, the more people learn about the original, the more they'll like your adaptation. When you take what was good in the original and put it in your adaptation. But if you adapt it badly, then the more people learn about the original, the more they'll hate your adaptation. That's it. Like, look, you can argue like short-term success or something, but in the long game, it's going to be a lot better for you and your profits if you adapt it properly. And sometimes I'll see like an adaptation coming out and people going, you're not the target audience anymore. I go, okay, then I won't watch it. And then the movie fails. And it's like, okay, who are you making it for?
That is the most terrible thing to say. The reason why Disney movies are successful because they were family movies. They didn't even say it's kids films. They said like it's family films because like we want everyone to watch it. Again, that's how you make business.
It's like, I don't know why you would adapt something with a built-in audience and then intentionally piss off that built-in audience. Like, why don't you just make something new then? What's even the point of adapting? But it's a little it is still a little tricky though what makes a good adaptation, because there's stuff like Disney's Hercules. I love that. That is a terrible adaptation of the story, but I think the reason it works is because if you look through history, we already have like 20 Hercules adaptations. There's already 3 TV shows, 12 movies. So Disney was like, yeah, this is a story everyone knows, so now is the time to do something new with it. And it's like, yeah, I get that. And it's also, they clearly did their research in there. There's a lot of Easter eggs and fun stuff in there. Yeah, so I think it works out that way. But when you're doing the first adaptation of something that has a big audience that wants to see it come to life, and you do it completely wrong, they're not going to see what they love coming to life. They're just going to see something completely different.
I always have this point, like, yeah, you can take any creative liberties you want, as long as you understand the core things with it, and also the value of it, and also the message of the story itself. You get it, you'll be able to do it. But again, like you said, like Disney Hercules does none of that. It's inaccurate, and it doesn't really. I mean, like the point of the story is even we don't get it. Like you said, like Greek. What is the point of the Greek story? Life is shit. That's what I'm saying. But like again, Disney flipped that on its head, and it did it so well. Like again, that was my first introduction to Hercules itself, and that movie did a so good job. I was one of those kids who would argue like, I think Hercules can beat Hanuman. And again, I was massively like bombarded with people like, no, that's not happening. But it did it so well from a culture that I don't even know like how that story goes. I really liked it. But then I started wanting to view your videos, and you would describe the very horrible life of Hercules. And you're like, oh man, oh no.
Wow, sounds like your life sucks.
I think the thing to ask when making an adaptation is, what are we trying to do? Like with Hercules, they were trying to make a fun family movie that people could enjoy. And they did that. With like God of War, it's like, it's not here to tell you Greek mythology as it happens. It's here to make you feel like a badass and fuck shit up.
It's a power
play. Exactly what God of War does. It's you go around killing people and banging prostitutes, and like even when your brother's life is in danger, you stop to bang prostitutes.
You got pay attention to the circle, boy. Not anymore.
Yes. So it's like, yeah, what is it trying to do? But if like the Percy Jackson movies, like you're trying to adapt the books, aren't you? You're trying to have that audience see their favorite story come to life. You didn't bring it to life, so that's the problem. Yeah.
The one thing I would say, like it had going for the Percy Jackson film, again, like I instantly liked the actors. Like there was like nowhere it's like, oh, these guys are insufferable.
Yeah, it's like, for one, I don't even hate those films because they're not hurting anybody.
Yeah.
And they did actually create a lot of new book fans, so that's great. And if you just look at the first one as a movie on its own, it's not even necessarily a bad movie. It's just a bad book adaptation. The thing is, like, yeah, because they messed up the world building, it's like, I don't know how you're going to do sequels when you don't have the seeds you need for those sequels. It would be like if Harry Potter killed Voldemort in the first or second movie. It's like, okay, where do you even go from here now? Like, what do we do?
He has a cousin.
Yeah.
But
yeah, like Harry Potter knew how to build him up. They were like, this is just Voldemort's face.
Yeah.
If his face is that threatening, imagine what the whole thing is like.
That's like the longest tease ever. We got that, and like in the rest of the movies, we go like, again, we get like small teasers, teenage Voldemort, a little bit, and then third movie, there's nothing about it. We learn about all the time, and then like, here he is, and we go, oh, the Snake Man is real.
Yeah.
I want to talk about a particularly very bad adaptation, and I love your video on that. I love your humor on that as well. Because like that's like it's not me bashing it. Like he bashed it so perfectly, I have nothing to add to it. It's like Record of Ragnarok. I know you watched all season, and I'm so happy for you, Mythology, right? Because like it was a pain for me to even watch one season. It's not because of the inaccuracies. The problem with Record of Ragnarok, you know that certain medias have certain cliches and bad tropes. It was like everyone put all the bad anime tropes into one show, and
exactly.
Ooh.
You know, and people when I talked about how annoying the show was, some people in the comments were like, "That's just anime. Do you hate anime?" I'm like, you know what? I've seen other anime. Okay,
see good anime.
I'm not an anime virgin. I know what good anime is. This is you take what's bad about anime and you turn it up to 20. I can't take
it. The first fight with Thor lasts about like 5 episodes, and it's not even. If it's, you know, like in Castlevania Dracula, that gorgeous fight scene goes off for 5 episodes, I'm for it. But this is pause frames.
This is a problem. I think I had just watched Castlevania, and then I watched Record of Ragnarok. I was like, well, this is not the same in quality. And Wilda was watching it with me, and when Thor was introduced, it was so over the top stupid, you know, the long hair, the gigantic hammer. But we weren't mad. We were laughing our asses off, and we were like, okay, this is ridiculous. This is fun anime craziness. Let's get into the fight. And then it cut away 8,000 times to tell 7 other stories. And it literally even, oh, he's about to use that attack. Let's tell you how he learned that attack. I'm like, I don't care. The number of times I screamed at the TV, I don't care.
That's why I say, like, again, like, one, I would never pick on Record of Ragnarok, or I would, like you said, I would point out the inaccuracies, but I would never bully it, say you can't do that, because I don't think that, like, it's so they would have the argument and say, we look at this Greek characters and Hindu characters who are not copyrighted, by the way. That's also a thing. But they can go, we are inspired by it, and we create our own versions of it. And I am all for that. And you can design the power levels as much as you want to your benefit. But again, if you do that, and it's also a bad show, I have nothing to give you.
It's like, if you're not accurate or good, you like you can be one or the other. It's amazing if you're both, but if you're neither, we're going to have a problem.
Have you seen Supernatural?
Not yet. I want to, though.
My advice for you is, like, only watch up to season 5. That's where the show's technically was supposed to end.
That has been everyone's advice to me.
And if you want to check out, like, other seasons episodes, there are, like, some particular episodes you can check out. There's, like, one where they do a Scooby-Doo crossover, which I would recommend because I love Scooby-Doo, and that's a brilliant crossover. But even Supernatural is such a good show. I loved it from season 1. I was watching it. I enjoyed it so much. And then it got to an episode where they involved the other gods. Because, like, the Christian apocalypse is on them. And for some reason, like, all the mythology gods decided, okay, we need to have a meeting. We need to put a stop to it because, like, we can't let the world end. It's like, okay, that's cool. But before that, they even established a little bit, like, pagan gods, in a sense. They were not put in a good light. They would say, like, you can kill a pagan god if you destroy certain things. That's always been the law of, like, mythology, supernatural mythology. And the 2 Hindu gods that they have in this episode is Ganesha, and also Kali. And I was like, okay, I'm for this. I haven't seen the opening of Ganesh is so awesome though, because, like, there's literally the main character walks beside a room and he sees an elephant and then, like, reverse back and the guy in the towel goes, "Don't you knock?" And he's like, like, this is getting into a good spot. I like this type of thing. But then Kali's in love with Balder, and she had a past fling with Gabriel for some reason, who was also Loki. And I'm like, okay. And
the CW.
And their biggest plan was this, like, all the mythology gods are upset like the Christian apocalypse is about to happen, a lot of people are going to die. They're going to stop to it. Awesome, great. But then you get to the next scene where there's like killing humans as sacrifices. And even Ganesh is taking part in it. And I'm like, no! No!
That is not what Ganesh would do.
Like, also, like in Hinduism, there's like Aham and Sanda worship and Aham Sadhana worship. And Aham Sanda worship is like the normal Hinduism, where there's like, again, like hurting any sort of animals is bad. Vegetarianism is like highly emphasized, but not all Hindus are vegetarians, by the way. Like, forget that. That's like ancient times. There are like priests who are still vegetarians, but most of us are not. We have like certain days where we don't eat meat. But so that's the widely accepted one. But there's like Aham Sadhana worship, which is more to like ritualistic type of things that are placed in rural areas, which are most made illegal. But there are still things that happen where they would offer sacrifices, like animal sacrifices, like chickens and goats. They are like a traditional thing. They do happen in like rural areas. Right now, there's some legal ramification wrong with that. But that's the thing. So like, even when you put like Kali, I would say, okay, I guess kind of see it. But then when you put to Ganesh, it's like, no, he's the elephant. No. And then they did the most sinful thing that you can think of, is that so their big plan was to lure Lucifer and beat him. That was their big plan. And again, like Lucifer's really powerful, and like I'm getting it. And then he goes like he runs through the other gods, even Ganesh, even though Ganesh is literally being an obstacle, and like the next scene we see, like he explodes.
What? Then, the remover of obstacles is being an obstacle.
But then Kali is like the big bad's about to face Lucifer, and I was like, okay, shit's about to get good. This is gonna be great. And I know that, again, this is the plot of Supernatural. I know Lucifer's obviously going to win. But I'm guessing they might do like a brilliant thing where there's like he uses strategy, where it's like, oh, you can't do that because of this, because of that.
Come up with something.
Yeah. But that doesn't happen. He just one-shots Kali. That's it. And I'm thinking, that's her job. Kali's here to kill demons. I mean, she's the one they sent to kill the biggest baddies, and one slap? That's all it's doing.
Kali will eat you. Kali will catch that hand in her teeth.
This is not even the most powerful Lucifer. He's not in his like powerful form. He's still like in his like sub-level form. And he's just like, and then Gabriel, who is also / Loki, is the one who saves them. And I'm going, there's no...
Your savior is here!
I'm okay if Lucifer wins, because this is a show about Christian mythology and like they're the most powerful god. I accepted that. But do it better, guys. But still,
there's so much you can do with that too. Lucifer has so much lore behind him. Some people call him the Prince of Lies and the ultimate manipulator. Like, you could have had him come up with something clever, and it's just he just Will Smithed her across the
like bitch slapped her, and Sam and Dean rescues Kali, and they say, "Sweetheart, you can't face her." Who are you talking to?
Oh, it's so weird. Oh, God. I don't know what's worse, that or... No, actually, the Zeus beating Shiva in Record of Ragnarok is worse.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, I still kept watching the show. That made me so angry. But again, I still watched the show because, like, Supernatural is really good. It's a really good show. So, like, I'll ignore the whole episode and I'll be happy about it.
This is going to make... I do want to, like, watch it and do some videos on it. This is definitely going to make for some weird video.
Oh, like, even if you can't watch the whole thing, like, just select the episode that where there's, like, all the pagan gods appear, and oh my god, I want to see it. Mythology Guy, please make this video when you get time to finish all your projects, make this the thing, and you will laugh and be angry and do a lot of things by this episode.
I think I would just find that insane. It's like when you haven't seen Record of Ragnarok season 2, but the way what they do with Shiva's backstory, the whole time I was sitting there going, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing. They give him this best friend who isn't even in Hinduism, and they have Shiva just go around fighting all the other gods in some great Hindu tournament or something, and I know you saw this video I did. The way they're designed for Vishnu, I don't know what they were doing with that.
That was so funny, your sketch. I showed it to my mom and stuff. Mom, this is what they did to Vishnu. And like, look at how he described it.
It's like, I know Shiva's design isn't 100% accurate, but in Record of Ragnarok, it's one of the more accurate designs compared to everyone else.
And the cope of and like, again, guys, if you're a fan of Record of Ragnarok, I have nothing against you. You
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, you love budget, but like they do try to justify. They come in the comments and they do say like, okay, there's like Shiva's is a good character, guys. He's like described as this warrior. He's such good qualities to him. Like, great for you. Still can't forgive.
It's like I feel like myth enthusiasts are at least part of the target audience for this kind of show. If you're going to put all these gods together and everything, and we're just watching it like, what are you doing? There's only one like creative thing they did with the Hindu gods that I liked. So they made Indra smokes, and he lights his cigarette by calling down lightning, and it lights his. I was like, cool. Okay, that's funny. That's a cool. Funny idea. That was it, though. That was it.
It reminds me of the shot of like Hades in the Hercules, where it's like he's celebrating, but again, it snaps it and just like lights up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 2 thumbs way up. Yeah.
Oh my god. Again, with adaptation, I say I'm not like you said. That's the best way to describe it. Like, understand if you do enough research, you'll understand more of it, and the more happy people will be. Even if they check out the source material, and if they're coming from the source material, they'll be like, yes, I know that. They'll just be happy about a lot of the things. But again, I'm always saying you're allowed to do whatever you want. It's mythic stories. It's for everyone. And gods themselves share their stories. We can learn from them. We can interpret them. Even in India, there's like several fan fictions, and we still argue about them as well. So like that's the thing. It has to happen.
It's like, I think a good example is like, look at the Super Mario movie. Like, have you seen that recently came out?
Yeah.
Like that. If you think about that, if you really think about that movie, it's not amazingly written or anything. It's very simplistic. It's very childish and silly, but it did so well and so many people loved it because they had so much from the games in there, like so many little references, so many little things, and they even did some world building so they could build towards like a Yoshi movie or a Mario Galaxy movie. And like, so people who played the games were like, yeah, I know this is stupid, but I'm having fun watching it because I feel like my childhood is coming to life on the screen. That's what people want out of like an adaptation like that. So it just gave the people what they wanted and nothing else. So obviously the best thing to do is to adapt well and be good quality. Mario did one of those things.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
At least do one. At least do one.
Just one.
But I do want to ask you, like, this is more of a deep question, I would say. Like, what can you take away from Hinduism? Like, the most deepest thing you can think of from Hinduism that you can take away?
You know, honestly, the first thing I took from Hinduism after I finished my first book on it was how epic it was. Mm-hmm. Like, that was the first thing I took away from it. I was like, this really feels like a big, grand, epic religion. Like, there's a lot of epic stuff going on in here. But I do think, like, deep-wise, it is, like, something I mentioned before where, like, I do think the people who wrote these stories had like this strong belief that you should hold to your values and that you should like try to do the right thing and you should be a good example and you should be upstanding in a lot of ways. Like, there are a lot of stories in Hinduism where one of the main characters or one of their teachers does something they clearly don't want to do, but they do it because it's what they're supposed to do or what they feel is the right thing to do or what they feel is honorable. So like, I do think Hinduism does have this big message of even when it's hard, do what you think is the right thing to do. It's this. I just realized this is actually a Dumbledore quote. Will you do what is right or what is easy? Yeah, in like Journey to the West, that's a story that starts out extremely anti-authoritarian, but then later the Monkey King learns to be humble and like do the right thing. And again, I think that character was inspired by Hanuman in like Hinduism, who has a similar story. So it's like, yeah, there is this story of learning respect, I would say, is also a big part of it. Learning to be respectful, not to like be too impulsive or too like anti everyone around you or stuff like that. And your comeuppance will come for you, or if you're just a good person, like good things will come to you. Like you said, like Yama is very fair and everything like that, and I'm sure he even does things he doesn't want to do, but it's because it's his job and he has to do it. But there is also that one story where he gives that woman her husband back because he truly sees how much she loved him and how happy they were together, and he wants them to be happy. So I guess you could argue that it's a little bit of a mix, since he does two different things in two different stories. But
the mix, I would say, is the thing. Because a lot of people have problems with it, but like I always say, like Hindu mythology really does show gods being flawed. That they do show these like mythic characters being flawed. Shiva is famous for his temper tantrum. A lot of people have like problems with it when I describe it. They were saying, "Oh no, because he did it because of this thing." He was, dude. I get it. But like I think this is also a unique storytelling perspective where they're showing this almighty being itself losing control, and there's a lesson in that you need to focus on it. And when you look at the real world as well, you do kind of get the idea maybe God is flawed. I don't know. I'm agnostic, but I'm saying like that it does come up in your head, and it's one of the religions that does that. And when you say like again like with characters following the honor and stuff like, and also Vishnu sometimes are contradicting these things. Yeah, you shouldn't have done that. I know it's your personal honor, but like from the greater good's perspective, that was kind of bad. And the thing is like, and also and also the other thing when you should like respect, that's also a thing. Vishnu, even to his enemies, he's a jokester, but he's very respectful. Respect is always the thing, because like I think as even like the most powerful beings of reality itself is holding to that same extent. So you must consider being very respectful towards other people. And that's a good story from that. Like, Vishnu is doing it to you guys. You guys are humans.
Like, there's a lot of people, like, whenever I tell, like the Hindu stories, like Shiva killing Ganesh or Krishna getting killed by the hunter, there's always people who are saying, no, you don't understand. They're not flawed. That was all fated to happen. It was all meant to happen. And they did it because of this bigger picture. I'm like, okay, look, I'm not going to tell you you're right or wrong, but I will say in that version, what's the lesson? What can we learn from that if it's all just meant to be? And it's like, if you have flaws, then there's a good lesson to be learned. And again, this is even, I think, a problem with my own religion, because a lot of people say God is completely flawless, knows everything that will ever happen, like everything is part of his plan. I have my own personal theory that God actually is a little flawed. I think you have to be flawed to flood the whole world because you think it'll get rid of all the bad people. And then, oh no, there's still bad people. All right, I'm going to give you 10 rules and now there won't be any more bad people. Oh no, there's still bad people. I'm going to have to send my son down to tell you what to do, and then there will be no more bad people. Okay, I give up. There's still bad people.
Vishnu's not the Kali Yuga. I give up.
Like, and nowadays everyone goes, how come God doesn't visit us? And God's up there going, I tried. You guys don't listen to a word I say.
One of your videos that I really love are all the gods are discussing. Maybe one of us should go down there, and no one's like volunteering. And then Zeus is like, I can go. No.
That is my favorite video I've made, honestly.
I love that thing. Maybe, who knows, for this current modern day and age, maybe the Greek gods will pay us a visit.
Maybe. How would you like to just find out some completely dead religion is the true one? And it's like, oh, it's Ishtar.
I love that Ricky Gervais, I think, described atheism in a sense when he said, like, okay, I believe in no God, and it's just like Stephen Colbert's like interviewing. You believe in one God, right? Okay. But do you know there's like over 3,000 of gods. So like, yes. Okay, so the thing is, you're atheist towards 2,999 gods, except for one. I'm just atheist, including the one. So we're both atheists.
That is a very fun way of looking at it.
And you can also do the opposite in the sense like, okay, there's like several different gods, so like maybe they're all one. They're the same guys in like several different costumes. I mean, if you live an immortal for a whole life, maybe you change appearances and like appear to different people in different ways. So we can like, I want to play a different game. I just don't want to play the whole Thunderbolt game over and over again. But that's the thing that like I like to like I think Hindus like the fans themselves will be pretty happy that they take away that you took away that lesson from them. Again, like I'm agnostic. I'm always mixed about things. I'm always like he's contradicting here and there's also contradicting here. I'm gonna go with the flaw and the lessons of the specific one. But I am also appreciate whenever like points out like you even like ask like what's the point of Vishnu's avatars? They're all ridiculously overpowered. I would say like Raman is probably the least powerful. He's the only guy who played by the rules.
Probably, yeah.
Krishna
that was the
basically
most straightforward story.
Krishna basically runs around like he's mini Cthulhu and he does whatever he wants. And he just does. And then like you said, like when you flee, you lost all hope. That's it, flee. But again, like one of the things I do on like what is like the biggest arguments in Hinduism that you have, like, or like the not the biggest in a sense, like the most absurd arguments you have. And I like to provide you an example in mine as well. Where it's like the two things a lot of people offense with my very first video is like the way that we both really appreciated Karna. And I think like your version of the Mahabharata was also probably a lot of inspired by the South side, where there's like great importance to Karna. Whether the North side, Karna is kind of a dick, and he has like one redeeming quality, but that's pretty much it. But in the South side, and that's because like even the historical reason is because like the South side where the caste system is like much more brutal, and that's why they had to like tell a story where there's like that's highlighted as a bad thing, and it's also we to put emphasis on a lot. I got a lot of flack for that as well. But the other thing, the most absurd one that I had is like when I said like, why is Vayu the god of like the representation of strength? Shouldn't it be the earth? It's gas versus solids. Solids obviously going to win. And then I get a comment, well, you haven't seen the winds of Neptune.
I don't think you have either.
I said, great, put a Neptune-sized rock. See who wins. The rock. And then say, well, the wind will like chip down the rock eventually. Okay, now you're going to Bruce Lee territory. Like eventually, so that's maybe like relentlessness. I'm talking about full raw power and strength. It's gotta be there, and that's like even the most. Still today, I get comments about people arguing like putting justification for wind being the strong god. So what about yours? What is the most absurd?
God, it's I've seen a lot of craziness. Like when I made my video about Shiva killing Ganesh, there was this group of people who I know this was happening because I was told about it. They were sharing it in their religious group and saying everyone go harass him on every social media platform.
No, I'm sorry.
And literally just copy pasting the same messages over and over. Under different usernames. It's like, you realize if it's the exact same word for word message, I know it's you. Like, you're not making some compelling argument. There were people telling me I was going to be put in jail for making Hindu videos, and I was like, I don't live in India. Okay, I know you guys have some weird laws over there about like what's allowed to be said and what isn't. We don't have them over here, believe it or not. I don't know what kind of jurisdiction you think people have. I also saw one guy, this has happened actually in several of my videos, but it also happened. One guy especially was saying it on my Indra's 100 Vaginas video. Like, he was saying, like, you're obviously making this up. Like, this isn't in any source anywhere. And I'm sitting there thinking, you think I need to make shit up? Do you know how weird religion and mythology gets? And someone responded to him saying, no, that's not true. I've seen that. I've heard that version before here. And then the guy responds, he goes, yeah, but that version isn't. And it's like, so you know that that's a version that exists. Why are you accusing me of making it up then?
I would say, like, even to the audience right now watching, like, claiming something as legit canon is hard in Hinduism because a lot of different people believe in a lot of different things. They agree on most things. I agree, like the Trimurtigal and that stuff like that, they agree. But like in specific, or the only thing you can do is provide sources, and you can't even provide sources for the folktale versions. That's another thing. Unlike for Greek and stuff, there's like Oxford would say, okay, like we only take this. This is the oldest thing we have, and because like currently no Greek practitioners are out there to dispute it. But like if Indian like Oxford is like, okay, this is the canon version. India like, how dare you? And like, okay, disown that. So you cannot claim canon for like Hindu mythology. So chill, people.
You cannot. And yeah, and of course there were also there's always that one stupid argument, which is if you weren't like raised with Hinduism, you're never allowed to talk about it. And it's like, you don't want your culture to spread? Like, you don't want more people to learn about it and appreciate it? I don't understand that. But the worst one of all, because it just annoys me every time I see something like this. The worst one of all, I think, the most ridiculous is, and I've seen this a few times, is I'm not Hindu or Indian, but I think this is very offensive to Hindu people. And I'm like, shut up. Nobody cares, then. What are you doing? Stop white. This is your day? This is your day? Going and getting mad on somebody else's behalf? Like, and what I love is then a bunch of Hindu people responded to him saying, can you not speak for me, please? Because, again, the vast majority of Hindu people, in my experience, are very good people, very open-minded, very kind people. The mean ones are very loud, but that's true for any community. That is true for any community. So yeah, that's what always happens. Again, like this one guy wanted this, like same 5 people wanted to represent 1,000 people by copy pasting the same shit under like 100 different usernames. But I'm like, dude, I know it's you. It's the same copy pasted message over and over again. You're not slick.
We see you.
It's like, even on my Shiva Kills Ganesha video, that is probably my most viewed Hindu video ever, and it does have my biggest dislike ratio, but it still has an 85% likes. So I think that says something.
I mean, it's the thing. I even like got like one comment said like, why didn't you call this out? This was done for this purpose, and why didn't you say that? And I was like, I don't have to. They literally taught us the same story. And like, again, like in the sketch, his wife was pretty upset about it. And the lesson for us they taught us that even the great god Shiva himself lost his temper and murdered his son. Be sure not to lose your own temper. Anger can make you do horrible things. That's the lesson of that story.
Yeah, and I'm clearly joking in the video, and sometimes people comment on that, which it's a YouTube short, and people are like, you didn't include the entire story. I'm like, I have 60 seconds. What do you want me to do?
And even if I sit down and make a video, like I will probably be able to cover all the versions of the story. It's not happening. And that's why, again, I really clearly say, I am Hindu Tamil, and I'm a Saiva. This is the version I know, and I'm going to add details from Mythology Guy's video. If it's wrong, I will say this is wrong from my version. I would say point that out. In our version, this is wrong, but there could be a version where this could be. And this is what happened in my version. I would just add on to it. I think that's much better way of going about it and say, this is wrong. Or this is not canon. This is not DC 1.
That's my favorite way for people to respond, is to just add to it. Like, add to my knowledge, add to the community's knowledge. That's what I like. Like, when they're not so absolutist about it. Like, sometimes people go, no, that's not a thing. The only version is this. It's like, okay, there are other versions. Calm down. But again, most of the time people are constructive. They're like, oh, I haven't heard that version. I grew up with this. And then I'm like, oh, I love that. I love hearing about that.
Yes, that's the appropriate way of going about it. And I do want to now come to one of our last things. I think you touched upon a little bit when you say this is a good introduction to Hindu mythology. But I would recommend your videos first for a Westerner because like I'm going this from like a Western perspective. People who didn't really know anything about Hinduism, how they can get started. One, I recommend the Mythology Guy. I think that's a good gateway. The other thing, what is your things that you would like recommend, pieces of media or books or whatever?
It's a little tricky because I don't remember the names of everything I've read. But I always say my favorite Hindu story is the Mahabharats, honestly, because I just love the payoff in that. Like I said, I love the Kurukshetra War, but I think that's a little too much for a first timer because there's a lot to go through in that story. I'm totally biased, but this was a great starting point for me, Jake Jackson's Indian Myths, because it starts with a summary of who all the gods are, and then it gets into the storytelling. So that way you have the info you need when you go into the storytelling. And then at the end, after the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, it has a few smaller stories so that you can learn a little more about each character. I think that's done very well. And then I would say if you want to like just find, again, do what I did, I would say find a nice fun version of the Ramayana somewhere. There was one I read that I really liked, but I can't remember the name of the author because it was just called the Ramayana, but I can't remember the author's name. But if anyone finds it, it's a solid blue book. It has a picture of Rama, Sita, and Hanuman on the cover. So, but it was really well written. So that's one that I really liked.
I'm going to give my recommendations as well, and this could be a recommendation to you as well. I think again, like from a Western perspective, I think the books that you recommended are much better because like I don't have that lens where I don't know any of them and then got into it. But there are certain movies that I do recommend. It's also available on YouTube because there's old movies. The other thing I would say, like even Indian people get a lot of things wrong when they're adapting mythology movies. And most of the time, like again from a Tamil perspective, which is like a different film industry compared to the Hindi one, was like a lot of the films that we agree on the good mythology movies are the films that came out in the 50s and the 60s. And there's a really good movie called Thiruvilayadu, which is based on like Shiva's like 13 stories from the Puranas. I would still say based, not fully accurate. They're not, okay? They're just not. But it's all based on like certain stories. And you can then go and read the myths. But the things like that movie like captures the Hindu essence better than any movies I've seen. Modern day, old, like that's still the best movie for me. And the music in that film, and so get into like Indian actual Carnatic music, which is also a big part. And the other thing, like a fun fact about Shiva is like he's a really passionate god for the arts. The easiest way to win over Shiva is through the arts. One time, Ravanan was actually trapped under a mountain because Shiva put a thumb on it, and the only thing he could do to free himself was to tear off one of his head, tear off one leg and the hand, and make a violin out of himself and start playing it. And then Shiva was like, "Oh, that's a nice dude." And then he lifts his thumb, and Rama is like, "Thank you." It's a much brutal story. I can't wait until you get to it. Oh, that's so good.
My God.
It's like, again, like if you want to impress Shiva, great dancing, music, this is the way to go. If you use violence, that's an extra point.
Those kinds of stories are so my thing. Like, I love it so much. That's why whenever someone says, like, oh, this weird thing isn't canon, I'm like, but it's so much fun, isn't it?
I recommend that movie. There's also another movie called, like, Saraswati Samadam, where all the goddesses have a rivalry with each other, like, what is best. This is not based on any myths, by the way. This is purely fiction. But it's so good. I would recommend it. Where it's like, like the wives of like the Trimurti is like their aspects themselves. Like Saraswati is the goddess of education, Vishnu's wife is the god of fortune, and Shiva's wife is the god of power, of strength, and all that stuff. And they all argue with each other, which is better, education, power, or money. And that's called the Saraswati Samadam, and it's a great movie where they choose three mortals to represent one education, one strength, one strength. Oh, it's so good. I would.
That sounds like shenanigans.
I would recommend those films. One modern thing I would recommend is there's like a Hindi. I'm not sure it's Hindi or Telugu or something like that, but I saw the Tamil adapted version. There could be like in this because like Disney Plus for some reason owns like Vijay TV. There's like an app called Hotstar where you can like watch Indian dramas and stuff. Something I learned recently. There's like a Mahabharata version. Again, not 100% accurate. But you get to see like the most of their pictures, like Vishnu like blocking the sun to kill one guy, just as like, and Saguni's going. Saguni is like Saguni. So Vishnu is basically a rival to Saguni. That's how like in the Mahabharata is rendered because like, he's the one who's doing the scheme, and Vishnu is like the counterpoint who does the schemes. And like it's like a great rivalry where Saguni is like, I'm the Vasudeva Krishnan. He did this. Oh, like Skeletor level. He gets angry at Krishna for doing these certain things. So I recommend those series. So yeah, those are my recommendations. I will send those links to you as well, Mythology Guy. And yeah, once again, thank you so much for like attending. It's like I cannot believe I just had this like awesome chat with you. It's like I would have pitched myself a lot of times right now.
I'm really happy to be here. Like this is awesome. Thanks for inviting me on it.
And again, like whatever you do want to do with me on the channel or like on your channel, like I'm here just like I will work through every time zone and I would like do stuff with you.
Good. I'm starting an OnlyFans. We can make some content. I'm kidding.
Yes, and I will post my shirtless photos of my Instagram. But again, like I would love to see more Hindu sketches that you do. Like again, in my Tamil Saivar opinion, most of the time it's good. I laugh at it. I really enjoy it. Even if you do anything bad stuff, I would like. I'm not gonna say I agree with 100% everything. I would like say like okay, that didn't happen in our version. I would admit that, and I would add to that things. But like so far, you would have the Sri Lankans vote on your side when you do videos.
Please always be honest. Like I want to learn too. Like I want to know more. I do not want to be in an echo chamber where I just get dumber and dumber. Like, yeah.
But again, like I would give the point where it's like, okay, that's a different version. This is the version I know. And I would say that because like with Hindu mythology specifically, I would have to say it. I cannot claim as Saivaneri holds canon over all the other like Hindu mythology. I cannot do that. That's just like wrong. So, thank you guys for joining us on the chat. And of course, don't forget to check out Mythology Guy's channel. You can click the tag link on the title and check out his channel. I would highly, highly recommend them for the funsies, for the educational content. And again, a lot of laugh. I wish a lot of my teachers were this funny.
No.
I pissed a lot of my Hindu teachers off by asking a lot of questions.
I used to piss my teachers off too.
So do check them out. And also, guys, if you like this, subscribe. I have some reaction videos to the Hindu Mythology Guy, and there's like I was sketches. Go watch them as well. This has been a dream come true. A YouTube dream has actually come true, and I'm really happy that you did that with me. And
I'm happy to have done.
Thank you guys for joining us, and I will see you all in the next episode. That's all, folks.